Good morning, everyone. This is the third day of the SIAL Canada virtual show, and welcome to this first virtual conference of the day, presented by Dana McCauley, CEO of Blue Unicorn Innovation, on a very interesting topic, forging 2030 food strategy. What does it mean in a few words? Never before have marketing teams been more challenged. Today, we have 4 distinct demographic groups in the labor market. In the marketplace, each is making food buying choices that suit their specific needs. How can food pros innovate to provide baby boomers, Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z the food products, recipes, and restaurants they want? Dana, through this presentation, brings attendees up to date on these differences and commonalities between these consumer groups and shares insight that will help innovators to create winning business concepts. This presentation provides concrete example of how to represent the same product for different audiences and tease out common needs that will help to identify the highest value market positioning for innovators looking toward building an innovation pipeline that will take them to 2030. Few words on Dana, our innovation expert. I'm very proud of that. Dana is the CEO of Blue Unicorn Innovation and Associate Director at Guelph University. Throughout her career, she has combined her interest in food with keen insight on global food trends. Dana has managed many different successes and careers in one life. Indeed, Dana is everywhere when it is time to speak about food and innovation. Once on air judge for seasons 1 and 2 of reality show Recipe to Riches. Another time, keynote speaker at the Canadian International Food Industry events, especially SIAL, obviously, where she has been our food innovation expert and co-president of our international contest, SIAL Innovation, the last 5 years. Visit her YouTube channel, Food Trends TV, or read one of her 4 books, all published by top-tier publishers, which have sold over 200,000 copies worldwide. And you will see, Dana was the founding executive director for Food Starter, a trailblazing food business incubator accelerator located in Toronto. During its first 2 years of operation, Food Starter's clients launched over 80 products lines and created plus 160 food sector jobs. And the organization itself was recognized with the Premier's Awards of Agri-Food Innovation Excellence. In her current role as Associate Director of New Venture Creation in the Research Innovation Office at the University of Guelph, Dana's team enables Canada's smartest agri-food and biotech minds to transfer their insights into commercial value that grows the economy and enhances Canada's international reputation as a place where great ideas and safe food are abundant. In 2017, Dana was even recognized as Canada's most powerful woman, Top 100 award winner. Dana, it is my pleasure to leave you the floor now.
Thank you. It seems like my bio might be longer than my presentation. But I guess that's just a testimony to my age. So welcome, everyone. I wish that I could see you all and that we could be together, but I'm very thankful that we can connect in this new online virtual way. I normally would be super free range and ask you to, raise your hand and ask questions or add comments along the way. But in this format, it's going to be difficult. I may pause here and there for questions if possible, but for sure at the end, we'll have an opportunity to chat. And then right after the presentation, I'm going to head over to the SIAL Innovation booth, and we can have chats there using the chat function and make appointments to connect at another time later on this week. So I don't think you need any of this because Xavier did such a great job of explaining my background. But just so you know, I've kind of gotten further away from people's mouths in my career. With my job at the university, I'm working on agri-food. Today, I'm going to be really focused in that middle section where I hope to give people who are running food businesses of all sizes some direction and insight about how you can use some insights about demographics to really hone your market positioning. It's really important right now when we have such limited opportunities to linger in stores and we're not super comfortable in the store because we are wearing masks and we have, you know, worried about germs and there's no sampling and that kind of thing. Your packaging and your positioning have to work harder than ever before. So hopefully by the end of this presentation, you will have some new thoughts and new strategies. So we're going to review the 4 demographics that are currently in the marketplace as shoppers and consumers. I'm going to use a couple of case studies to give you some examples of how to apply that insight. And then I'm going to just quickly give you just a little glimpse into 3 trends that will affect all of these demographics in the next 10 years. So baby boomers, it's hard to believe for me, who grew up seeing some of the people who are now baby boomers as these screen icons. But baby boomers are not ancient. They are, you know, mature for sure. But in your mind, you might think of them, especially if you're a younger marketer, as dinosaurs. But in fact, they are, many of them, still working. They are more food involved generally than they were in the younger part of their lives, because many of them now have the income and the time to spend in the kitchen. Their lives have changed a lot though since COVID. A lot of their travel options have diminished, and now they're not entertaining as often as they would have, you know, after say golf or bridge or any of those other activities that are popular in this demographic. But they still want to have a good meal and have a restaurant experience at home. GenX, the often forgotten and rarely talked about demographic that I fall into, we're the sandwich generation, right? We've got parents right now who we're worried about and who we are maybe sometimes cooking for. We have kids at home or kids in school or kids who we desperately want to move out of our homes, not speaking personally at all. And but we're very engaged with technology. We treat our technology kind of like our car. Generally, the Gen Xers, we just want it to work. We don't really want to play with it. We aren't generally the people who are writing code and that kind of thing. Millennials, hard for me again to believe that little Hermione is a grown-up, and so millennials, we've focused on them so intensely, and I think with a little bit of a mistaken focus, to be truthful, because millennials have never been the demographic with the most disposable income. They have chosen to use a large percentage of their income for food, so that's made them very interesting. But it's so common when I am working with food entrepreneurs or when I'm coaching the students in the 4th year product development course at the University of Guelph to just like focus 100% on millennials. And they're important, but they are not the be all and end all. So millennials, their behavior is going to change quite a bit because of COVID. A lot of it has to do with debt load and the gig economy and the fact that they, you know, have a lot of expenses, because they generally, the ones we focus on as marketers are generally fairly urban. So we've got a demographic who loves experience, who likes food, who imagines themselves as expressing themselves through food, but guess what? They are not able to indulge themselves as much. So if you have gone into a Best Buy or a Home Depot or any appliance store, you have seen that there are hardly any freezers in store. And millennials are if they have the space, the people who are buying those appliances to stock up, and they're kind of going back to what we would have called sort of some suburban boomer behavior. Now, Gen Z, maybe some of the younger people in this conference recognize the people on this screen. I gotta be honest, when I Googled and found this image, I have to say I did not know who any of these icons of the of the Gen Z generation were. I had to do some real deep diving to get to know them. And the point of that being stated is that it's not as obvious. It's not like the Gen Xers who, you know, bought a Tiger Beat magazine with their birthday money, and the people that were in it were on TV and in the record store, and everybody knew who they were. Gen Z has a very eclectic, very wide, and sometimes completely different set of media that expose them to a lot of really different people. So if you think you know who the influencers are for Gen Z, unless you are one, you may be way off. Want to draw your attention to the phone use, 15.4 hours per week. That means marketing to this group is really different than marketing to people who are in a 4-channel type of TV environment at the same age. And they love their ad blockers. So you really have to do some very, very different strategizing about how to get this group to be aware of your brand, of your product, of your launch. Want to take a deeper dive into Gen Z because we're pretty familiar with a lot of the constructs with the other 3 demographics, but this is a group who is emerging very, very quickly into their, you know, their get married, you know, have kids, high volume purchase generation or life stage, pardon me. So I think we really need to have a sense of them. They like food, they like to cook. Unlike millennials who have this, probably wrongly, but have this snowflake reputation, Gen Z they're ready to work hard. You know, they lived through the last recession when we had the housing crisis, and they saw their parents deal with that, and they have empathy for you know, money, and they care about it. They're a little bit less, apparently, according to the research I've done, a little bit less interested in experience the way a millennial is, but very interested in cool products. Remember, this is the group who stood in line to buy Jordans and all of these, you know, the latest releases of video games and all kinds of things. They definitely tie their status to their stuff. There's a lot more vegan and vegetarian curious folks in this demographic who are doing that, choosing that type of eating lifestyle for ethical reasons. And that's very interesting because it's less about a health choice and more about an empathy and compassion choice. And they're willing to try different cuisines. Again, this is a group who took, you know, grocery store sushi in their lunchbox as often as they took ham and cheese. I'm going to tell you that I would like us to quit calling them Gen Z because they're not last, they're not losers, but they are Gen C. And to me, Gen C is crisis. And I know that sounds very dramatic, but think about this. My grandparents, who were born in like the 1915 to 1925 time frame, they lived through World War I, the Great Depression. This picture says this is basically what my grandmother's backyard looked like. She didn't have Ziploc bags, but any piece of plastic, she washed and reused it. The world events that affected that group, the 1920s adults and 1940s adults, are very similar to what we're seeing happening in a Gen Z's life. If you were born in 2000, you have dealt with all of these world events. And even if you didn't find yourself in the place where they happened, you were surrounded by screens. And that has to have an effect on your behavior. Now, the male Gen Z, he's an interesting guy. He's woke, but he's not idealistic, which is a phrase I wasn't sure I should even type, but it is important because this is a young man who has seen all of the Me Too, et cetera, et cetera. So he's a little bit different than the guys who were brought up on the MTV culture of the generations, 2 generations before him. He is much different when it comes to thinking about household chores and shopping and cooking than certainly boomers or Gen Xers, and probably millennials as well. Now, Miss Gen Z or Gen Z, as I'd like us to start thinking about them, is a real powerhouse. I would say, and this is an overstatement for sure, but this is the first generation of young women who are really living in a feminist world. They have power, they use their power, they state their minds, they're very confident that they can affect change, and they don't mind telling people about it, which I think is pretty fantastic. So just threw in a little bit of a teaser here. Just what do we do with this kind of information? So boomers, and millennials, they're still have the TV on in the morning. They're the people who are using Facebook a lot. I threw some photos there at the side to say, who do I think really connects with this generation? People that I think of as where people turn for information. So Marilyn Smith is certainly a morning show Canadian icon, and I think she connects very well with the millennial demographic. Palin, amazing YouTube star who then became a award-winning cookbook author, and I think she, as a millennial, really connects well with that demographic, with her authenticity and her personality. And then when it comes to Gen Z, you know what? It's a totally different world. You're not going to be necessarily talking to them in the same way that you would people who are using more classic media. The Gen Zs are incredible meme sharers, and they get a ton of their news and info from, yes, YouTube, but also a lot of really alternate types of feeds, and a lot on Instagram. So if you want to get their attention, you got to get your entertainment game on in mediums that they frequent. Gadgets that I think again embody these demographic groups. Baby boomers, they have more time. They're starting to treat cooking as projects, particularly the men who are getting into cooking in the baby boomer demographic. They've bought golf clubs and tools, and they're used to spending money on gadgets and stuff that supports their hobbies. So as they move into cooking as a hobby, they're buying sous vide machines and pasta machines and the stand mixers. They're pretty comfortable with laying their credit card down for a few $100s here and there. The Gen Xers are moving into this, sort of like, oh, I think I need to be healthier stage. So they're the ones buying air fryers and that kind of thing. The millennials, all about the Instapot. If you are on social media, you know how many millennials love their Instapots. And then Gen Z, we're seeing them again. They've got this technology, they're natives to it, that's glued to them, or almost seemingly that way, and they're using new technology to get their recipes. Why have a book when you have Alexa? So when you're thinking about your retail strategy for these demographics, just some drivers that I thought I'd throw down here. Baby boomers are looking for safe, convenient, not too out there ways to get their groceries. Delivery is okay, but a lot of them are probably click and collectors. GenX is busy, as we talked about. They want same day click and collect. They don't want to wait for things. They want their order to be, you know, perfect, and they don't have a lot of time to you know, get too creative about what they're going to do and not do. So they tend to be quite brand loyal. Millennials, they are going to want things that are, you know, ready to go, duplicate restaurant experiences. And my Gen Zs, well, guess what? They are they're they're all about the Uber Eats. They want it now, and if not now, before now. So this might be a time to just say, is all that resonating? Is there anybody who wants to, you know, ask a question about anything that's come at this stage? I am just looking for where the, whoops, sorry guys, I was looking for the chat, which is not showing up very, as I'm sharing my screen very easily. So let me just.
You have to go down and it's going to appear normally.
Yeah, I'm used to finding it there, Xavier. I'm just not seeing it. Can you tell me if there's anything in the chat?
No, nothing yet.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to go on then in the interest of time. And I'll, when I quit sharing my screen, I know I can find the button more easily. So I thought, what do you do with this information that I've put out there? So I'm going to just take an imaginary product and tell you how I would recommend approaching it for a couple of different demographics. So since I spent a lot of my food business career in frozen food, I thought, okay, you know, and a lot of that in meat-based companies, I thought, okay, what about a marinated steak product? It's for adults, could be entertaining, could be date night, special occasion, weekend. This is a way to duplicate that steakhouse experience. So what are your options for positioning this product? So I love my Venn diagrams. I threw together a list of things that would be important drivers, important claims for millennials and for boomers, because those are two of the biggest demographics in the marketplace right now. So you can see that they're quite different, but there are some things they have in common. So I think a lot of marketers and a lot of executive teams would say, okay, let's go for that middle space. Let's call out the things that bridge both demographics. That's not a terrible strategy, but it also, I don't know, how do you choose what age group of person to put into the pictures that you would choose, for instance? It's also not super simple. And I think right now, simple is very, very important. So, you know, there's mutually desirable features for sure. Both would want to have some similar things like the Instagram or the packaging, you know, the great looking packaging is more important than ever before. And we saw some really amazing visuals on the packages that were submitted to the SIAL Innovation Awards this year. Some of them were gorgeous, you know, product shots like Bombay Chef, which I say you should go after my conference and check out their booth. And others were just really fun graphics. Like, for instance, there was this brand of cereal bars with these really fun, cool owls. So definitely, you know, all of these things need to be considered. But, you know, how do you really position for these two demographics? And I would say that now is maybe the time, you know, when retailers are so focused on having unique products. If you have a product that you can position in two ways and show it to different customers, I don't think there's any problem with that. So I've got the Millennial Fast Fry skillet is the way I would choose a picture, something like this one for this product. It shows, you know, a really sort of experiential bowl meal. It's very weeknight looking, although maybe a special weeknight for for some people to have steak. And then for the boomer, they're definitely more interested in you know, the sort of steakhouse experience that they can't get right now. So bottom line, my advice is don't choose both, which I know is always so tempting, but really focus in on what store you're pitching to, who shops there, and how are you going to get the people who are in that store to either buy more because your product's there, or how are you going to attract new people to that store? I think those are important questions to have in any sales deck, and to really shore up your positioning choices right now. So to really bring that point home, why don't we take a quick peek at how to clarify your messaging? So plant-based, we all are, of course, inundated with news about plant-based products. So how do you get through the noise right now? And how do you get someone to choose your plant-based products? So here we have some different positionings. And so we've talked about demographics, but I think you need to go even more granular, because all of the demographics we talked about are generations. Some are urban, some are educated, some are rural, some are you know, wealthy, some are not. So how do you really take the positioning and take it to the next level? Because with all of these different types of communication vehicles that you need to know about as a marketer these days, how are you really going to get through the noise and make sure that the people who are not only like your product but are willing to pay for it, that they know about it and are reminded of it? So if I had a plant-based product to sell right now, and I identified that women were the ones who would be most likely to buy it and eat it for themselves, I would be focusing on things like, you know, how many vegetables were in it, and how fewer calories, fiber, you know, the real sort of health types of claims. And I just threw down, like, if I were working with a sales team, what types of clients, if they were a North American company, I might suggest they pitch to first on ideas like this. Boomers, if you a plant-based burger, they don't want it to be different from a regular burger. The chances are they're choosing it because they feel like they should have something plant-based in their fridge, and that they should get on board with it. So they still want the burger experience. Gen Z, as we mentioned, particularly the female cohort of the Gen Z demographic, they are very interested in sustainability. They're also interested in, we've trained them to be kind of focused on protein, and they are at the beginning of their adult lives. So they definitely would be more likely to be in the discount banners, or looking at the private label, less expensive tier products, because they really have to stretch their dollar. Millennials are still really focused on extending a super healthy, clean lifestyle and food diet mix to their kids and for themselves, and they're most likely to be focused on the things that you know are sort of the small Q quality things, less about the authenticity of the burger experience that the boomers are looking for, and more about what it is free from. So I hope that's interesting for you, and that it helps you to say, it helps you to identify ways to take things off your package and out of your messaging. I think that's, we try to put too many value propositions onto packages these days. If there's one thing that I say to most people who ask me to review their food package, is that they should simplify it. Okay, so Now I'm going to just quickly go over 3 trends that I think everyone in the food business needs to be focused on. And I mean that across the board, whether you're in the restaurant business, which I'm so sorry if you are, because it's such a difficult time for you, or if you're in packaged foods, or even just communicating, writing cookbooks. There's 3 things that are going to really affect all of these demographics for sure in the next 5 years, and I'm pretty confident in the next 10. So we're going to have a new value consumer, and that consumer, they're generally having to trade down from where they might have been a year ago when the world was a little different and employment might have been a little more certain. So you are going to see the rise of the discounter. I'm already seeing a lot of interesting things happening at Giant Tiger. It consistently, the flyer that I'm seeing has much more premium items than I expect. As you know, your typical snobby Gen Xer, in Giant Tiger, I've been seeing products with very premium labels, Haagen-Dazs and Bubbly and you name it, there for significantly less money than at the Sobeys that's next door to the Giant Tiger in my area. This 99-cent grocery store, or this 99 grocery store chain in the US is super interesting. As you can see from the picture, literally everything is as close to $1 or a 99 as possible. And definitely you're seeing just regular dollar stores that didn't start out having grocery, adding more and more food items all the time. Walmart, who has had a positioning to be a value provider for a long time and invested in grocery, I think they probably will do quite well in the next decade. So as I mentioned, dollar stores are growing very quickly before COVID. So these numbers for Dollarama, they are, you know, that's a lot of stores. And when you've got 5.3 sales growth before a lot of people end up on CERB, I think that's quite interesting. And I am expecting that more of the discount dollar type stores in Canada will be following the US's lead and adding freezers and refrigerators. Clean eating. So our idea of clean eating, you know, started out with just clean label, simple, easy to pronounce ingredients. You know, Michael Pollan, if your grandparents didn't eat it, you shouldn't either. But it's really evolving now that we are very much in a world where there are worries about listeria and salmonella and E. coli on a regular basis in our supply chain. And now with COVID and fear of other types of foodborne illnesses are really playing on people's minds. So for instance, I'm working with a gentleman at the University of Guelph. His name is Dr. Keith Warner, and his research associate, her name's Madia Hassani, and they have developed a technology that's been in the news a lot lately. And it's a water-free way of cleaning fruits, is how they started. It uses UV light and hydrogen peroxide, and basically is better than washing an apple. They can get, you know, eliminate all of the, for instance, listeria that could be in that fruit, and in taste tests, the apple to apple, the quality is not affected by the use of the technology. So I think we're going to see more talk on packages, in marketing materials, about how the food we are buying is clean and cleaned. So that's one trend that I think is very it's evolving. The way we use the word clean food is going to really change. And we've seen it just recently in the way pizza boxes are sealed. And of course, during COVID, with the many types of outbreaks that happened in meat plants through North America, the idea of allowing consumers access to your plant and your manufacturing environment in ways that you wouldn't have in the past may be very desirable. I think companies that say that they treat their employees well, and that they have retooled to add in plexiglass screens and spaced out their assembly lines and processing lines will probably get people's attention. And I think if I had a food plant right now, I'd be putting cameras in it and having a live feed on my website if I possibly could. At the very least, I'd be shooting video and showing people how clean, safe, and what types of preventative measures I was taking. So these are just some new ways of underlining clean in this post-COVID world. And I use the air quotes because all of these pictures are actually, I found them last spring, I would say around June. So I'm guessing there's probably even more examples now if I were to take some time and do some research. So immunity, very interesting. We've had antioxidant claims be very popular for quite a while now. I would say the pomegranate juice people did a great job of helping us all to understand that antioxidants are very important for us. But in the last couple of years, I've seen a lot of the claims around vitamins and other antioxidants that are sorry. I've got. I need to reset my mouth. Talking at a wall is different than talking to a group. Anyhow, what I was going to say is that a lot of the claims that right now are valid for immunity have been used for anti-aging for quite a bit of time, because as these marketers have said, oh wow, baby boomers are worried about getting old. That's true, but now they're more interested in staying healthy. So we're seeing a lot of new products pop up that focus on probiotics and on antioxidant-rich ingredients, and some of them that are interesting to me are here on the screen. I'd like to draw your attention to the Glowing Shield product. That was launched by Nestle in Asia recently. They've launched a whole line of basically it reminds me kind of those little single sachet crystal lights, but it's as you can see, much higher design concept, and this one, the Glowing Shield, is quite interesting to me, just because of the name that's been chosen, etc. Long story short is, get used to seeing lots of immunity claims, get used to seeing lots of immunity claims get challenged. These are not products that these aren't claims that there's a lot of standards for, but I can't even tell you how many articles I've seen recently about this claim and how it will be growing in the future. So I'm not sure what you should do with that, to be honest, because you can jump on the bandwagon, or you can underline your integrity and as a brand, and say, hey, you know what, this tastes good and we think it'll help keep you healthy. So it's an interesting debate to have, and I think it has to come back to your core brand values and what your consumers expect from you. If you're if you know your positioning really well, and you know that your consumer is someone who likes quick fixes and will take chances on buying things that that have a big promise, that's great. But if you have a more skeptical demographic who shops and trusts you to be really transparent and to curate and give them good advice, I would say this claim is one that you might want to wait for a little more science on. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I've left quite a bit of time for questions, which I do hope will take some time with, and I see there are 4 here. Also, just to let you know, I've just relaunched my website, and if later on today you have a chance to go and check out my new services, I'd love to hear your feedback on that. So now I'm going to take a sip of water and get to the questions.
Yes, that's obviously a very interesting topic. I have a Gen Z in home, so I mean the profile that you have described is really accurate, I should say. The 15 hours on the mobile phone is like an extension of their arm or their hands. I don't know exactly. So whatever. I'd like to understand the first question. I'd like to understand more about the Gen Z's values, why they are attracted to YouTube, memes, TikTok, etc. They seem to have content, think about taking care of the planet, but the channels they interact with seem more superficial.
Yeah. It's a great question, and I am not a social scientist or an anthropologist, so I'm going to tell you my impression, because like Xavier, I live with a Gen Z, and I study him and his friends as much as I can. It's interesting. I think that it's the quick fix. I think we've trained this generation to expect things to just like be fast, and they want memes, they give a quick laugh, but there's also something thought-provoking. TikTok is someplace where they can create. Same thing with memes, really. I mean, the whole idea of a meme is that, and at first I was like, I didn't even really get them. I'm talking a few years ago. I'm like, why would you bother taking a picture and writing something over it? But all of these platforms, the thing they have in common is that they are created by real people. So either by yourself or by people like you. And I think that is part of it. But truthfully, I think your question is an amazing one, Magda. And I think there's a lot more to the answer, but that's my quick take. And yeah, I think if somebody wants to do a master's thesis, here's your topic.
Okay. Obviously, yeah. Will you be sharing this presentation? First of all, all the video that we are recording are going to be on the replay conference section of the virtual show, and also on our SIAL Canada YouTube channel. So you will be able to rewatch it, and Dana, I think that we can share your presentation. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm happy to share a PDF of my presentation with anybody who'd like a copy. Just ping me, and I can do that for you. And
you can ask any question to Dana on her stand on the SIAL Network Expertise hall, where she's actually co-managing the SIAL Innovation stand with Isabelle Marquis as well. So any questions you want to continue to have after the presentation, you can go there on the virtual show as well. Next question. What if a product is suitable for multiple cohorts, communicating on pack needs to be simple, but how would you try to target all cohorts with multiple messages? Would you focus on trade material customization, or don't recommend targeting all cohorts at all?
Well, I don't recommend it. If you were listening, and I know you were because you were asking really good questions. Yeah, I think when you try to speak to everybody, you speak to no one. I think my strategy and the one that I've seen be successful for the most people is to hone right in on one particular target market, one positioning, chances of your message being applicable to others is good, and you will get you will cast a wider net. But one of the dangers I see, and you know, it's so tempting to just try and have one package that speaks to a whole bunch of people or one set of messaging. But, you know, one of the reasons it doesn't work is that it doesn't activate an emotion. So as marketers, your job is to activate people's emotions. And if you watched that presidential debate last night, which I didn't because I was trying to save my mental health, but I read enough about it to know that people were extremely passionate about how they felt about it. And that's because those people on the screen were activating their emotions. So if you can't connect with somebody on an emotional level with your marketing message, your chances of them, one, picking up your product or zooming in on your product if it's e-commerce and really reading about it and learning about it, are lower. And then them making that impulse to actually purchase it, again, lower. So I would say, you know, go for what you know, do your market research, really get out there in whatever way possible. Use A/B testing on Facebook, do surveys. If and when we can get back out to the world, ask people, you know, why they like the product, why they would buy it, and really understand what pain points you're solving. Unless it's something that's very, you know, just ubiquitous that you have to have in this day and age, like hand sanitizer or masks, you know, it's hard to market something to everybody and be successful. And you have very, very limited options for getting people's attention right now. You can't do sampling. You can't, you know, be doing festivals and that kind of stuff where you can really get to hand sell. So your product's got to work really hard.
Good. Nice answer. And next question. Those trends are all very oriented towards really healthy centered brands. If you were a marketer for a very indulgent brand with chocolate products, for example, how would you adapt your brand story to this environment? Sorry.
I think I kind of just answered that, Helene, but it's a really good question. Okay. And I am the person who really loves to indulge herself. I adore food and drink, and that's often my reward for a hard day. So I do understand that consumer a little too well. But again, it's about those activating emotions. So, you know, understanding how to hit those cues with color and with you know, imagery and the right words is really important. And that's a little bit hard in Canada, where we have to have 2 languages on packages. Certainly, you know, the imagery is important, but getting a word in English that has a 100%, you know, similar effect in French and vice versa, that is a challenge. So one thing I would say is, if you are trying to market something that's really indulgent, is that you need an excellent translator, because sometimes you see the copy as and you know that it was either written in French or English first, and it just doesn't quite go the right way.
Exactly. That happens sometimes. Could you say a little about the 4G's relations to restaurant in a pre and post-COVID world? What will be the trends for each generation?
Yeah, I didn't talk as much about restaurants as I probably should have. So thanks for that prompt, Sophie. Yeah, I think that, you know, when you, before COVID, certainly we knew that Gen Z, Gen Z was for obvious reasons at their life stage and their income level, you know, were really focused on fast and quick and you know, not wanting to necessarily linger. Certainly, I think they're adapting better to the post-COVID world than other people who viewed restaurants as a sort of like a an away from home retreat, and who don't like, you know, eating in front of a screen and that kind of a thing. But, you know, a lot still holds true. Boomers still want great service. They still want parking. Millennials are where I see the biggest change, because they are the group that probably were, particularly the urban ones, very, very heavy restaurant users, and were really used to gathering with friends, especially, as I mentioned, the urban millennials who live in small spaces like condos. Millennials kind of divide into an interesting um, uh, split between the ones who have kids and have moved, you know, either out to the suburbs or beyond, or are crammed into small spaces with children. And then a high proportion of millennials have chosen, for a whole bunch of reasons, to remain childless, either later or long term, or have smaller, very small families of, you know, just one child. And so they really have seen their restaurant experience change, because this is a demographic that was used to taking their kids to restaurants. And of course, you know, if you've ever hung out with a kid, you know that they touch things, they eat with their hands, and they aren't really welcome in restaurants right now. And of course, the expense factor is an issue too. And Gen X we just kind of fall in between the two, and I think where our behavior is changed to a mostly takeout experience, as we try to keep, you know, if we are in that sandwich situation, keep ourselves clean and pristine for being able to take care of our parents should that arise. So yeah, I think that the whole restaurant situation before COVID was already on the verge of a big disruption, and this has just kind of hastened it. And I'm trained as a chef originally, and I'm married to a chef, so I know so many people in the restaurant business, and I know that they're all trying to figure it out. The places I see doing best are the ones who are just really limiting their menu, sticking with the things that they are known for, and delivering it in whatever way people are comfortable getting it, whether it's on a patio or as takeout. But there's a lot to watch, and it's hard to predict the trends in the restaurant world quite as easily, because I think right now we have a lot of folks struggling, and I think a year from now we'll have fewer folks struggling, and a lot of empty places and a lot of really cheap equipment, and there'll be some folks who just rise from the ashes and do some surprising things. And I don't think I have enough information to really predict what those things will be right now.
Okay. Well, we have 5 minutes left, so I should say that maybe 2 or 3 questions. In what way? Yeah, in what way could a chef incorporate the immune foods and clean eating ideas into menu design?
Hey, I know who that is. Hello, Chef Shona. How are you? Thanks for the question, and thanks for tuning in. Yeah, I think it's, you know, I think you can take your cues on that question from the sort of, you know, spa, healthy type of menus that have been popular in the past and have popped up on menus before. I think that you know, if you look to the smoothie bar world, that they've done a great job of picking up on those types of ingredients. But you know, to write a menu that sounds appetizing and culinary, and doesn't use, you know, like you know, Berry Blast Energizer is a bit of a challenge. But this is where, if you have wait staff, you can really do a lot with some training. You know, you still have words, you know, like, you know, healthy and, you know, grain filled and those kinds of things on your menu, but really getting into product knowledge is super helpful. a lot of restaurants that I've been, not, I was just gonna say a lot of restaurants I've been going to. I haven't been going to a lot of restaurants, but of the few restaurants I've gone to, they are using QR codes really effectively. I was at Cafe Belong at the Brickworks in Toronto on the weekend, and my friend Chef Brad Long did a great job of providing a really safe environment. And one of the ways is that the menu was just scanned with your phone. So if you take that to another level, and once someone scanned the menu, then they can also click through and get information about the ingredients, and even have an icon that says claims or nutritional content. Technology and our use of technology in restaurants is becoming more permissible. It's we have to have our phone out to get to the menu. It's not that we walk into the restaurant and put our phone away for the time that we're at the meal now. So those are some things that I would move on.
Good. Last question, because there is just 2 or 3 minutes left. How do you balance having a social media profile that appeals to multiple generations without alienating one? Example, posting memes without confusing boomers.
Yeah, you know what? I don't think it's that hard, because I think in this scroll through culture, I think that if you see something that doesn't appeal to you or that you don't get, you don't necessarily unfollow. You just go to on to the next. So I think your social is a little more flexible than say your website is. Your website is a little more tricky, right? Because people are there to get something in particular. So if the first image doesn't resonate with them, they might not stay. But I think socially you can be more flexible. I'm pretty hard and fast about my packaging claims, as you've all picked up. But I think you can. That's the one place where back to Magda. I believe it was Magda's questions, where I think you can spread your messaging out a bit more, because the algorithm will show people what they want to see, and love them or hate them, the Googles and Facebooks out there, they know their viewers very well.
Of course. Last question, I guess. 1 minute. No, I'm sorry. I need to make the conclusion right now. So just for those 4 questions left, I invite everybody to go to the SIAL Innovation stand on the SIAL Expertise Hall, just on the virtual. You just go out and choose the hall where you want to go, and you talk with Dana directly. She is obviously on her virtual stand, and all day long normally. So just to conclude, thank you, Dana, again for this great presentation. Thanks again, everyone. Thank you for your support, and have a great virtual visit. Merci, Dana, encore une fois.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.